Welcome to the Chingona Revolution podcast, where we will bring out your inner badass Latina, overcome self-doubt, help you gain clarity, and pave your own path, all while leading with courage. I am your host, Latina coach and speaker, Erika Cruz. Hello, Rebels, and welcome back to Chingona Revolution podcast. I'm excited about this episode because we have a special guest, and Jasmin has been a part of Courage Driven Latina, and we've been working together for the last 4 months, and I'm so excited because we are going to continue to work together for the next 12 months, and I've just already seen so much growth and transformation in her, and she just has such a powerful story. And I think the reason I wanted to bring on Jasmin is because, one, her story's powerful AF. She's the eldest daughter of immigrant parents and just like very relatable to a lot of my clients. And I think more than anything, what you worked on during the program was more of like life stuff versus business stuff. And I think I've had a lot of amazing people on the podcast to talk about business. But one of the common questions I get is like, oh, if I want to start a business, if I don't want to start a business, is this still the program for me? And even though I know we have goals of you starting a business in the near future, mainly what we worked on was a lot of like life stuff and just things that are super relevant to my audience. So I'm so happy to have you on the podcast. Thank you for agreeing such like short notice. And then I didn't even give you questions. So welcome, Jasmin. Please tell us who you are and what you do. Just give us a little bit more about you.
So my name is Jasmin, and I am in San Diego, California. I am a mother of 3 children, my biological and then 2 stepkids and wife. And I am currently working a 9 to 5 job. And I am like an avid workout person. I love working out. And yeah, I joined your program because I I was called to, I listened to my intuition basically. And after listening to your podcast, I just felt like this strong sense like I want to be coached by Erika. I need to be coached by Erika. Just the way you spoke and everything, it really resonated with me. And so I pulled it after speaking to my husband. I pulled the trigger and I joined your program. So I'm really,
And
really
I'm so
excited.
glad you did. So, when you were listening to the podcast, did you ever think, oh, wait, I'm going to be on this podcast?
Never, never, never. When I saw the invite on my email, I was like freaking out, like exciting, super excited. And I told my husband, Erica invited me to be on her podcast. He's like, oh, yeah. And like I was like, what am I going to say? What am I going to talk about? But I'm really, really excited to be here with you. So thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for being here. And again, I think you have just such a powerful story. Like, there was nothing that you needed to prepare to be on here. Like, you being you is enough for you to be on here. And I think that that is relevant for you in so many different areas, right? In your career, in the future business that you're going to create. And for everyone else listening, like, we don't have to go become anything or prepare anything. We are worthy enough as we are to go do amazing things. So, tell me a little bit about where you were how did you find me first and foremost?
So last year I wanted to go to the We All Grow conference, and I found out through that event. Anyways, the thing is, I couldn't make it. I really wanted to. It sold out really quick, and then after the conference, they were like, I saw a bunch of posts of like Erika Cruz, and I was like, who is this human, and who is she, and what was her story that like really impacted people, and then so I started following you on Instagram, and then I saw that you had a podcast, and then after that, I so the event was the We All Grow was in September, the end of September, I believe. So after I saw that you had a podcast, I binge listened, if that's even a term. Like every day, I was listening to your podcast, and so after that, that's where I found you. That's how I found you through We All Grow after tagging you on your story.
Awesome. I did not know that. I should ask this question more often. So okay, now tell me more about you. Like where were you last year in September? Like what was your mindset like? What kind of circumstances were you in? What was going on that made you, because you were looking for self-development. You were looking for community, which is why you were even following like We All Grow and trying to go to the event. So like what was going on in your personal and like career and in your life in general?
Okay, I'm gonna cry. So, I was going through a lot of things, and looking back, I didn't realize everything that I was feeling and going through. So, a lot of it has to do with work. I was really like I was struggling to like be there, be present. I was making a lot of mistakes. I was so stressed. I was so stressed, and a lot of the stress was also like guilt. Thinking back, it was guilt because I didn't spend enough time with my baby. Um, sorry. So I didn't realize how much um, so work was like we're growing and everything like that. We're expanding and we're still a small team. And I was just like, I need a break. I felt the need, but I didn't express it. I didn't say it. I was just like overwhelmed. I had my, I was trying to help my husband, do his business, and I also wanted to do mine. I had a baby. Um, I was also trying to fit in my workouts. I was trying to do my self development. I was just trying to do so much and I couldn't. And I knew it, but I still wanted to do that. I also had like my husband's immigration stuff that I needed to do. So I had all of that just hanging over my head and I was like, what do I do? What do I do? Like so I just felt like a huge sense of overwhelm and guilt and just that's where I was.
Yeah, and any of those circumstances in life are enough to overwhelm someone, right? Being a new mother and like, going through like the actual birthing process and all of that. Like I know you were already a mom to like the bonus kids to your step kids, but with that, like becoming a new mom, right? Like there's hormonal changes, your body's changing, like your sleep schedules, like that on itself is a lot. And then a growing career, right? Like you were in a position of leadership. So like having the company grow and your responsibilities grow as well. And then like I have a client who's an immigration lawyer, and I mean what I briefly know from even just like family members, that's stressful on its own. Like any of these things were enough to stress you out. And then have all of them go on at the same time. That is very overwhelming. But I think you bring up such a good point that sometimes it takes us looking back to realize, like, damn, I was being kind of mean to myself because that was a lot that was happening all at once. So that's incredible that you can at least look back now and know, like, okay, yeah, there was a lot going on.
Yeah, and then I also like with work, I love the people that I work with and the mission and everything that we do. But I was like I've always been like a workaholic, always volunteering for overtime, and I like looking back, I've always been like that. I felt like I created an identity based off of work. Like work was like my identity, and I didn't realize I had done that. I would so I work from home, and it would be like 4:20, 4:30, and my end time is at 4, and I'd be like, oh, I just need to finish this. Oh, this, I need to finish this. And then I had my son. My son would be home from daycare already, and he'd be like needing me and wanting me, but I still had that like I drive that I wanted, to finish something. And then from there, like now looking back, knowing that work is not my identity, I just work there. And the most important thing is my family and taking care of myself. So learning that, like that, I need to take care of myself. I thought that by just working out was taking care of myself. But there's so much more to taking care of yourself and putting yourself first than just working out.
Yes. Yeah, you bring up such a good point. Why do you think that where do you think this narrative that you had to work a bunch came from?
The need for approval. the need for approval, like, and being recognized. That's where it came from. And like through your workshops, healing your inner child, and um, there was another one, a lot of your workshops, and then I think it's also like a blend of your podcast. I realized that I still needed to heal my inner child, and I didn't know what it was. I just felt that
Mhm.
I just knew that there was something. And after journaling and listening to your, like, again, doing the workshops and everything like that, I realized, yeah, I have a constant need for approval. Um, and that comes from like my mom. Like I was always aiming to please her, and um, I felt like I wasn't good enough. So that's where my self doubt comes from. Um, the imposter syndrome, um, like I just felt not good enough. So I would start something like outside of like work, business. I have an
Mhm.
ideas, I get super excited, and I stop it because I feel like it's not perfect. So that's another thing that Courage Driven Latina has helped me with, to find like the root, basically the root cause of why I am that I am.
Yeah, it really acts like, I think, a few things, right? Having being in a container that has a solid community, but also a coaching container that has you look at yourself and maybe the parts of yourself that you don't really want to see, but they're necessary for growth. That's like some of the magic that happens inside of the program. So you already told us where you were like before joining. Tell us what happened during the program. You already started telling us a little bit about that. But when you first joined, because here's what happens, people think they're going to join and work on one thing, and then they get there and they're like, whoa, okay, actually, these are the things I need to address, and then I could go work on this thing. So tell us a little bit about your experience. Like, what were the first few meetings like? Tell us a little bit about your journey while you were there, and if you had any aha moments.
So the expectation that had set for myself was that Courage Driven Latina was going to help me like get my business started. So that was like my what I wanted. But it was so much better than that, because I'm healing. So the coaching calls were great. It was so helpful to see that there was other women that felt like I did, to a certain sense. A lot of them still needed healing, trying to figure each other out, like figure themselves out. So the coaching calls were great, and you're during your coaching calls, I love how direct you are. I love that, and I just the advice that you would give, and then also, I think the way you would relate to us too. I think that was also really really important. Giving you a little bit of your own like life and what you went through, like putting your engagement, breaking off your engagement. Um, so the coaching calls were great, and then the workshops, like I was eating those up, like listening to them during my walks, and then your podcast at the same time. So but the workshops, like especially, I wrote it down because I didn't want to forget. How to make a decision when it's scary. You put a YouTube video there, trauma and the nervous system, and that right there was like my aha moment. I didn't realize how chronically stressed I have been through my whole life. Just not too long ago, I made a timeline of my life, basically, when I've noticed that I've been stressed, and it's been obviously as a kid, stuff, from 2012 and on. It's been like one thing after the other, and I've always been like on the go, 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 go. I work. I would take my lunch. I would go to CrossFit, and then after CrossFit, I would come back, shower, and then start working again. Feed, my family, do stuff, So we were always on the go, 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 and that's like being in a chronic, state of stress. And I didn't realize that I was doing that to myself. So after that aha moment, um, I I pivoted my courage project. I pivoted my courage project to developing a slow morning routine. And what that consisted of was waking up earlier than usual, so starting like around 5-ish, and just making time for myself, and that included journaling and reading. Um, and then slowly I stopped the reading because I could do reading later, and I incorporated working out. doing Pilates because at the same time during the program, for some reason I did something to my back and I was not able to go to CrossFit. So I needed to find something else, and I found Pilates, and I really really like it.
Okay, I'm going to start off with the Pilates thing and then I'm going to go backwards because you said so many
Okay.
amazing things I want to circle back to. But it's so crazy how our physical body or like the universe or whatever it is that you want to believe knows what we need and ensures that like sometimes we just get roadblocks so that we don't keep doing certain things because CrossFit's great. It's I think it's a very fun workout. Like it makes you feel strong and powerful, but it's probably not what you needed at this phase in your life when you are learning to be softer and more gentle with yourself. So it's no coincidence. And I think it's like no accident that you tweaked your back and had to pivot and go to something like Pilates that is still very strength forward, right? It's not, Pilates is not
It is
easy,
not easy.
but it's low impact. And it shows you, I almost, okay, I feel like I'm getting like a little message here. I almost feel like this example is evidence that you don't have to work super hard to get results and that things, and not that Pilates again is easy, but it's not, it's easier on your body. It's easier on your joints because it's low impact, it's low risk of being injured, but it's still really good for your physical body. It's still making you stronger. It's still also like a form of cardio. There's just
Hmm.
so many benefits to it as well. And you would have probably never tried Pilates if you didn't tweak your back. But the
Never.
universe was like, yeah, we got to take a little break here, Jasmine. What are we doing?
Yeah, it's so crazy. Like everything has been lining up to where I'm at right now. Like from the moment I
Mhm.
found We All Grow, I found you, I listened to your podcast. I was already like in a self growth like phase, even before then. But
Mhm.
We All Grow, joining your program, and then what I found and I discovered through your program. And after that, I simultaneously was doing therapy, and then after again through We All Grow, I found a an acupuncturist, and so I was doing.
Amazing.
Yeah, I found her. I've only seen her like 3 times, I think, but it's been like life changing also with her. So Hilda Gonzalez here in San Diego County, um, and so it's just I think what really helped me was your program. Honestly, just those videos, the journaling. I finished my first journal in ever,
Oh, yay!
ever. I'm on my second journal. Like I've never written as much as in your.
Yeah, no, I think it's so funny. So we talked about like state of like chronic stress and then so people come into the program with an expectation of what they want, but they get what they need from it always. Like people always end up getting what they need from it. And one of those things is the tool of journaling that I swear by and I love journaling, but I don't ever really lead with this because I think people are kind of like, what? I'm going to pay to like go journal, but like it's really transformational when you do it in the right container. So, I am going to quickly talk about like what you were referring to with the workshops. So inside of Courage Driven Latina, we have weekly coaching calls, and those are live coaching where you come and you get coached on anything that's coming up, whether it's life, business, relationships, anything that you want coaching on. I love that you said that I was direct as a coach because I think as a coach, we're almost in this balance between like we always want to validate the experience you're going through, but we also want you to become the best version of yourself and change the narrative to something that's going to be more helpful for you. So I'm always in this dance between, and like you've gotten this coaching for me as well. Like actually, your coaching hasn't even been like, go do more. Your coaching has been like, okay, we got to do less. Like what?
Yeah.
Whoa, right? So validating your experience of what you're going through, but also being really direct because I think as a coach, it's our responsibility to be honest with you. And like if we think you could be doing more or you're doing too much, it's our responsibility to say that to you because your growth and your healing is a direct correlation to our jobs, right? As coaches. So I love that you said that I was direct because sometimes I can be very very direct and sometimes I will be compassionate as well. But you talked about the workshops and yes, like I think it's so amazing that you got so much transformation from some of the workshops that didn't even take place during your round. So, because we have a library of different workshops, and I do workshops every month for the program, and these workshops are anything from like how to lead with courage or how to make courageous decisions when it's scary, how to heal your inner child, how to use human design for your courage project. There's one about setting boundaries with some of like some guest coaches and things like that. So, what you brought up with the one about the nervous system. So, I just want to like quickly talk about how this even came about and then what it's kind of led to now. So, that workshop is probably a year and a half old. So I created that workshop when I first started with Courage Projects. No, so it's about a year old when Courage Projects first came into the program. And when I started teaching more, I was like, okay, if I'm doing Courage Projects and I'm thinking about changing the name to Courage Driven Latina, then I better have a workshop on courage. Like, how do we make decisions when they're scary? And in this workshop, it was all about leading with courage and how courage activates fear. And courage isn't just doing things without fear, it's doing things with the fear, which directly correlates to our nervous system. And our nervous system is what tells us it's pretty much the system inside of our body, our physical body, that tells us like run, fight, or freeze, right? So like a lion's coming after me, I better run. Or, you know, like somebody that is probably smaller than me is coming to attack me. Well, let me fight them, right? And these are very direct examples of our nervous system, but our brain has not evolved very much from when it was possible that a lion could come and attack our tribe. Our brains are still the same. And we look at work situations as stressful as if a lion was coming to attack us, and our nervous system can become activated. So obviously, I am not a therapist, but I heavily encourage therapy. I think that coaching and therapy are two things that like will help you reach your goals, because therapy helps you process trauma from the past. Yes, therapy helps you process trauma from the past. Coaching helps you reach your goals. So, with these two things, I think you could pretty much do anything in life. I have a therapist and I have coaches as well. So that workshop that you're referring to about how to make how to lead with courage or how to make courageous decisions even when it's scary, I included that YouTube video that's all about the nervous system and was able to explain it way better than I could. But through my own therapy journey, I started to focus more and more on the nervous system regulation. And that's actually where the 4 M's came from. So I was like, okay, how can we regulate the nervous system? And I was like, well, movement helps. Like whether you go on a run, whether you do yoga. And if you're listening and you have no idea what the 4 M's are, it's episode number 50 of the podcast where I share what the 4 M's are. So yeah, the first one is movement, right? So for you, it would be, I'm just going to like use you as the example. It would be Pilates, or it could be your walks when you listen to the workshops, or it could be a CrossFit, right? So it could be something big or something small. It could even be dancing. So anything that gets your physical body moving. And then the other thing is mindfulness. So mindfulness could be prayer, meditation, floating in the ocean. It could anything that just requires you to be rather than think, just being. And that's more of like from a soul level, I think, and a little bit spiritual. And then there's mindset, right? So oh wait, I missed one because I was going to specifically use you. Okay, so with mindfulness, one example is breath work, right? We talked about how magical breath work is for you. And with breath work, you're so focused on your breath, you can't think of anything else. You can't help but be in the moment. So that's a form of mindfulness. And as we were talking, you mentioned like it makes you feel high after. That's yes. And it's almost like getting you into like this spiritual state. So that's the second M, which is mindfulness. Geez. And then the next one is mindset. And then mindset is the journaling. Mindset is the self-coaching model. Mindset is changing those thoughts and using your brain to reframe the thoughts. And then the last M is everybody's favorite M, which is masturbation. So, but the reason all of these came about is because all of these different things help regulate your nervous system. If this podcast resonates with you, I invite you to join my free masterclass, From Doubtful to Chingona, Double Your Confidence and Courage in 90 Days. This free class is happening on Thursday, July 6th at 5:30 p.m. PST. You'll learn the 5-step framework that has helped my clients take brave action in 90 days, as well as what is stopping you from embodying your Chingona self, how to get started even with self doubt and imposter syndrome, how taking brave action heals your inner child, and last but not least, the mindset tools to get out of your own way. You'll also get early access to Courage Driven Latina, which is my group coaching program that always sells out. This program is now 12 months. Yeah, you heard me. 12 months of support and coaching to support you through many courage projects. Inside of Courage Driven Latina, we help you start and execute your courage project. Some of those past courage projects include starting a podcast, building the confidence to speak up at work, starting a coaching business, starting to date after a divorce, and so much more. To secure your spot in the masterclass, join the waitlist for Courage Driven Latina by clicking the link down below in the show notes. Again, this is happening on Thursday, July 6th at 5:30 p.m. PST. If you cannot make it live, don't worry, sign up because we will be sharing the recording shortly after the masterclass. I cannot wait to see you there. Now, let's get back to the show. So, just wanted to share a little backstory on that. And then, what you had also mentioned, another workshop really stood out to you. So, the one about leading with courage, what was the other one that really stood out?
I think it's where it's healing your inner child, and I think you guide us
Mm.
through like enter the room, your childhood room, and something along those lines. And yeah, that one was really triggering for me. Like it really made me realize like, oh my God, like I didn't feel safe. And I figured out what I needed to heal. Um, and so that's where I'm at. I'm still working through that. Um, Journaling, during one of the coaching calls, you actually asked me to write a letter to myself. As you know, write a letter to my, yeah, as to me, sorry, as a kid. And I wrote it, and I just like, as I was writing, I was just like crying, just crying and crying. And that was also a form of healing.
Yeah, I think was your was your homework or your action item, was it to have your inner child write a letter to you and then you write back to your inner child? Did I have you do the dialogue or did you write the letter to your inner child?
I wrote the letter to my inner child.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I think for the next phase, let her write back to you.
Oh, okay. Let me write that
It's
down.
really fun.
So, her right back to me. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Tell her, like, ask her, what do you need from me? And then she'll tell you.
Oh, wow.
And I know you're processing this in therapy as well, which I think is amazing.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, I definitely am. Oh, I would have never thought to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, and as for everyone listening, like as Jasmine brought up triggers, like I think we look at triggers as like something horrible, but triggers are nothing but teachers. Triggers are data that tell us what lessons are there for us and what needs to be worked on. So whenever you find yourself getting triggered, get curious and obviously like find safety. Like you always want to find safety within yourself, and if something feels extremely triggering where you feel unsafe, it's okay to come back to safety and not go down that route. Obviously, and being inside of therapy is a great time to explore your triggers, but like let's say that a partner or a friend or a parent triggers you, just get really curious as to why that is. um okay, well that was a tangent. Let's see, what else did I want to ask you about? So where are you now? Like what's going on with you now that we went through 4 months of the program and we're getting ready to embark on another 12 months? So what do you feel looking back now were your biggest takeaways from the program, and then why did you rejoin, and what do you look forward to in the next 12 months?
Okay, so I think the biggest thing was the healing part. And then, so that's like my biggest takeaway. Like, if I wouldn't have listened to your workshops, I don't think I would have realized that one, I needed to heal my inner child, and two, that I also needed to like stop and slow down. So that was like my biggest takeaway, that I just needed to slow down and stop putting so much on my plate. and take care of myself. And I feel like I've been incorporating that by, again, journaling, taking time, doing something fun for me, which is like reading, going, still continuing therapy, and then going with my healer, the acupuncturist, and she does cupping as well. Doing little things for me like that. That's the biggest thing that I have taken away CDO, which is a lot. It's life changing. The other thing, sorry, what was the other question?
Yeah, what are you looking forward to for the next 12 months? And like what inspired you to rejoin the program?
When I was walking with my husband, when I realized, oh my goodness, CDL is ending. And I was like, I feel like I'm just, I'm barely in that healing, almost done with the healing part of it. I'm like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready to be done. I if I got so much from this program from you, in these short 4 months, what else can I get, in 12 months? Where will I be in 12 months if I continue with this program? So that's what I'm excited about, seeing what else I'm going to uncover. And then maybe I can finally, like after finding that clarity, like being done with at least this part of like, my inner child and slowing down. Um, where else is this gonna take me? Maybe I can start my business. Maybe that's what I'm hoping for. I'll be done with, the immigration stuff, um, and just being a better and present wife, mother, and just for myself, just being a bit kinder to myself. I think that was the word you used, being kinder to yourself.
Yeah, yes. And I think that, I mean, even just sitting here on this podcast interview with you right now, your vibe is so much more like, like that. Whenever you first, I remember like I could hear it in your voice. I could hear the stress and the anxiety in your voice. And I think sometimes our culture is so accustomed to being stressed that we don't even recognize what peace is until we like get a taste of peace. Right. So I guess now I'm just curious, with and thank you for sharing all of that, and thank you for speaking so highly of the program, because one of the things I just want to mention before I ask you these other questions is that, I mean, I give everybody coaching in the program, right? And it's up to you all if you take the coaching or not. And as much as I want to say, oh, this program's great and the community's great, which it is, it's also up to you. And it's up to you to show up, and it's up to you to do the work, and you've done the work. So you should be extremely proud of yourself, because it's not just the program, it's not just the amazing community of women that are in it, but it's also your dedication to you. Like, you are choosing yourself, you're choosing your family, and you're really getting this, you're realizing what is important and what is not worth stressing over. And that is so powerful. So you should be
Yeah.
extremely proud of
Thank you,
yourself.
thank you, thank you. Honestly, I'm so thankful that I found you. And I know that in the next 12 months, I'm only going to be a better me.
Yeah, and I'll probably be over in like Southern California by then, so we
Yay.
can totally meet up in person.
Yes.
But but now I'm just curious, like, what advice do you have for other eldest daughters of immigrants? Like, what have you learned just like in your life in general? Because so many people, as I mentioned, can relate to so much of your story, from like chronically stressed to like managing all these different things to being the eldest daughter. So like, tell us a little bit about that. Like, what would you tell your younger self, knowing what you know now, about the pressure you put on yourself as like being the eldest daughter?
That you don't have to do it all. And to really give yourself grace and um, take the time to take care of yourself, because being the eldest, it puts a certain pressure, sorry, to take care of others and put others first instead of putting yourself first. So that's my biggest advice, to give yourself grace and to take care of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, you're so right. When you are caring for yourself, you're inevitably caring for the people around you that you love as well.
Yeah, I did not expect to probably say that. But yeah, you just
It's because it's powerful. Yeah. And I think it's It makes sense that it causes emotion because you're almost grieving a part of yourself. Like you're grieving that part of yourself that was so, I guess, cutthroat and so put so much pressure on yourself. And you are giving yourself grace now. And it's beautiful, but it takes a lot of unlearning, and it's still, all change is hard, even if it's good change.
Definitely. And I I think like being the eldest, my goodness, I don't think it's, your parents' intention to, to for you to become the second parent, because essentially that's what I became.
Hmm.
And I didn't realize that, until Mother's Day, like when my siblings came, like, we got a little older, especially my brother. He texted me during Mother's Day, like, thank you for being, like my second mom. And I didn't realize that I did so much mothering, um, that I took care of them so much. Looking back, I did, I feel like I did a lot. Like I wasn't the best sister, I can say that. But I took care of them. I took care of them.
Yeah. How beautiful that you were able to do that, but also at the same time, it's like it makes sense that the big thing that came for you from this program was inner child, because it feels as if you were almost robbed of your childhood because you were the eldest, right? And you had to become this parent for your siblings. That it's like, well, what does like little Jasmine want?
Yeah, and something else, that came up, and um, I think it's not talked about a lot. When it's child sexual abuse. I know it's heavy. So that happened to me, but through my dad's dad. And because so there's a story behind this, but I wrote an essay in high school in my freshman year that I did not know related to, the sexual abuse that I did not know was going to be sent to social services and all that stuff. So when that came up, and obviously my parents were informed, but my extended family also found out, um, and that happened to my siblings as well, to my sisters. And I didn't realize that was like the first time that I ever found, how powerful my voice is. Um, and because of that, everyone else in the family found out that that had happened until I wrote that essay. Um, that's how people found out. And through you know, once they found out, um, even before they found out, sorry, let me backtrack. Um, I knew with like my youngest sister that I had happened to her. And I would cry, and we would cry together, and I'd be like, okay, I'm sorry that I wasn't there to protect you because a certain incident happened. And that's like one of the things that stands out the most, that, that I took care of her, that I was there for her, that I would comfort her. And she knew that we both shared that pain. Um, and I'm not ashamed to share, that that happened to me, because I know that it wasn't my fault. I know that I was not responsible for his actions. And just I'm taking this platform to mention this, because if you've gone through that, look for help, talk about it. The more you talk about it, the more you heal, and then the more you prevent, like talking about it, my goal with sharing this is that you talk about it with your kids, and that will, or in with other, other families. That way you prevent this from happening to someone else. Um, and that's something that I have healed. I feel like I have healed. I know, I also went to therapy for this, but this also did come up a little bit during the when I wrote that letter to myself. I'm sorry that you couldn't speak up before. I felt like I carried that blame, or that guilt. I was blaming myself. If I would have spoken up sooner, then other kids would not have experienced what I experienced. But I realized, it was not my responsibility. But eventually when I did, everyone found out, it was like a huge, huge, relief, a weight off of my shoulders. I was only a kid. I was a kid when this happened to me, and I was carrying this until I was like 14 years old. So yeah, I just wanted to. I know it's a completely different thing from what we were talking about earlier, but I felt the need to share this part of my story as well.
Yes, thank you for sharing. And I'm just so sorry that that happened to you and to your siblings. And I'm sorry that you felt guilt and the need to protect your siblings. I'm just so grateful that this is something that one you've spoken out about. It doesn't matter like when it happened, but that you got to do it. And I'm so glad that you also got help with this and support through therapy, and thank you for bringing it up here and for your vulnerability, because it happens way more often than we think. And it's just such, it's kind of like masturbation, right? It's like this something that taboo to talk about. Like, even I've even heard of stories where people didn't want, like they found out their kids were sexually abused by a family member, and to not out the family member, they wanted to keep it hush hush, which is such BS, right? Like, this is, you're right. The more we talk about it, and thank you for bringing it up here, because yes, I hope that every single person who's listening to this podcast who has children or a niece and nephew can get together with their family on like discussing this, right? And bringing it out to light, because this happens way more often than we think. And this whole idea of it being taboo, like, no, we have to talk about the taboo things or else we can't fix them.
Yes, and I think
So thank you.
that's something that you know, and I think yeah, I was in that workshop that how to make a decision even when it's scary. In that YouTube video, it mentioned something about how your ancestors, if there something happened, you know, back, you know, to your ancestors, and then you can still carry that yourself. And
Yes.
that was also like another aha moment. I didn't, sorry, um, that was also another aha moment for me. That I was like, God knows how long this has like carried on in my family, and
Yeah.
you know, like speaking about it, you know, I'm breaking those chains, and
Yes.
hopefully, you know, like I tell my kids, well, my husband tells me, you know, the boys, no one's allowed to touch you here. No one is allowed to make you to, you know, to do this. We don't keep secrets in our family because that's something, you know, that abusers will do. They'll keep secret. If you don't, you know, this and this will happen. Um, so that fear is in there, you know. And so, yeah, definitely, that's something else that I realized that I did, and that, you know, that made me feel good. You know, that I broke those chains. I'm breaking, you know, that, yeah, just breaking those chains.
Yeah, it ends with you. Yeah, and in the workshop, I'm pretty sure what we talked about. There's a book called It Didn't Start With You, and the book is all about how trauma is something that can be passed down genetically as well. And it could be passed down up to 3 generations. So, and they did a lot of studies with people whose like grandparents were part of a Holocaust, and how they were experiencing some of the trauma that they experienced in the Holocaust. But the other things that came up, I think there's an example in the book where um, this guy was all of a sudden really afraid of like freezing to death, which came out of nowhere. But it turns out like his uncle or his great uncle had actually frozen to death in Canada, and had actually happened. So like we can inherit like through genetically, like through our genes, we can not just inherit our eye color and our skin color and our like hair texture, but we can also carry on trauma, right? So like if somebody was like had really bad experiences with women, for example, like your children without having that experience could still fear women. Oh, I remember the example. Okay, so the example in the book, yes, there's the one about the guy who froze, but they used they used rats, because rats can produce a lot faster, like reproduce a lot faster. So what they realized, so they were having one rat, like, so let's say rat A, which is like the grandparents, rat A was sniffing cherry blossom, and every time they sniffed cherry blossom, they would get shocked. And like not something that like traumatically hurt them, but like it was uncomfortable. So then what they realized was their kids, anytime they smelled cherry blossom, they'd run. They were not shocked, right? But it was like, it was almost passed down as like a survival mechanism. Like, oh, this is dangerous. We don't get close to that. And then the kids of those kids, so like if the grandparents were A and then the kids were B, then the next generation was C. So that generation C, or the grandchildren of those rats who were like actually being shocked, even when they smelled cherry blossom, they'd run away. So it's like a great example of how even if something didn't directly happen to you, you can still carry that trauma. So the fact that you're taking the time to like bring awareness to the trauma and heal the trauma and address it, you are cutting the trauma there with you, and that's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we let you go? This has been such a powerful conversation. I don't like this usually happens. I'm like, I don't know why, but I feel like we need to bring this person on. And like, we didn't plan
No.
any of this conversation, and it was so good.
If you are on the fence, definitely make that courageous decision of joining Courage Driven Latina. It will make your life so much better. I had so many doubts. I was, because it's an expense, that it's an investment that you're making for yourself. I was obviously scared of the cost, because I've never done anything like that, and I didn't know exactly what I was going to get from it. Um, but I'm so, so, so happy that I did, and so thankful that I thankful to myself and to my husband for giving me that extra push to join Courage Driven Latina, because I would not have found so much clarity, the healing, um, and take being kinder to myself and also slowing down.
Yes. It's beautiful to watch. I am so excited that we get to continue working together for the next year. For sure, you are going to have a business. You're going to do so many things. I cannot wait. I'm so excited for your journey. Thank you so much for coming on, and I will see you
Thank you,
soon.
Erica.
Thank you so much for joining me this week. Make sure to visit theerikacruz.com. That's Erika with a K, where you can subscribe to the show so you'll never miss an episode. You can help this podcast grow by supporting me with an Apple Podcast rate and review. If you took anything away from this episode, I invite you to take a screenshot and share it on social media so that your favorite badass Latinas can also check it out. Be sure to tag me at the Erika Cruz, that's Erika with a K, because you know I want to see it. If you're ready to join the revolution and be a part of the Courage Driven Latina community, visit couragedrivenlatina.com to get more information and join the waitlist. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.